Hello and welcome back to the Dugout podcast. I believe this is episode 20, somewhat of a milestone. Today I'm joined by Ethan Barlow to talk about all the weekend's SPFL action. But before we dive into that, I think we should talk a bit about Scotland. Obviously, over the Nations League break, Scotland went to Croatia where they were defeated 2-1, and then they held Portugal to a 0-0 draw at Hampden. Um, Ethan, just your overall thoughts on that international break there.
Yeah, better than expected, I would say. I think the Croatia game, another really sort of tight defeat. Like all of the games in the Nations League so far. I think Scotland were in the game the whole game. They were pretty solid. The first half was even, and a draw at half time was probably fair. Ryan Christie takes his goal well. I know it comes to him, fortunately, after the kind of miss hit by the defender. After good play, some good play down the right from Ben Doak. And then they show a bit of class, Croatia, to get the equaliser. In the second half, it doesn't really, Scotland don't really start as well, and you can kind of see the goals coming. Craig Gordon's forced into some good saves, and then they do get the goal through Kramaric. And then it looks like Scotland do get an equaliser at the end, but obviously wasn't to be. And we had a few other chances as well, so it was disappointing that one, but obviously a more positive result against Portugal.
Yeah, definitely. The Croatia one I felt was one that we probably could have won. Um, it's tough. Obviously, you're coming up against these good sides, but I feel like we've got the players, and we seem to be there or thereabouts. In the against these teams. Portugal game we sat in, very Scottish Steve Clark performance. Thinking back to his Kilmarnock days, very like rough and very like disciplined. Slowing the game down when you can. Had Ronaldo crying at the end of the game, which I think that brought a lot of satisfaction to a few people around the world, especially the Messi fans all over social media who hop on everything Ronaldo does wrong and vice versa. So
Yeah,
it was a good performance, but I don't think people should distract from the fact that we're still winless. And you know, I I think some people are still making excuses for Steve Clark, and I still think he should move on sooner rather than later.
yeah. I think ultimately, as you said, it's an impressive result against Portugal. Obviously, one of the best nations in the world. But as you said, we're still the fact is we're still bottom of that group, and we still look like we're going to drop down into Nations League B. I think that'll definitely give the players confidence going into which I would say are winnable games. At home to Croatia and away to Poland in November. I think Scotland could definitely go into those matches expecting to get something, and if they win both of them, then they should be safe of any relegation. I think they could still go into the relegation playoff, but at least it's not an automatic relegation. Although the Nations League is very complicated, it seems. But yeah, as you said, the performance against Portugal was quite defensive. Well, it was very defensive. But I think Scotland had arguably the biggest chance of the game with McTominay. If he scores that, the header in the first half, then maybe it is a different game. But yeah, we defended well. I think the standouts were probably, I thought John Souttar had a great game. He was excellent. Sure we'll get on to his more recent performance, but I thought he was brilliant. I thought Kenny McLean was really good as well. On the ball, not so much. He did kind of give the ball away a few times, but I understand he had limited options with Scotland sitting so deep. But yeah, I thought Scotland, there's positives to take from both games, I think. But at the end of the day, it is a results business, as well know, and I think Steve Clark's got to start getting those results, especially against these kind of teams, not Portugal, Poland especially, that we're looking to kind of compete against.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And Croatia for one, people see them that they are a really good side, right? But I feel like the games, like, even in the previous Euros, it was close, and it was just I don't know what it was, but we just can never seem to get over that hump. But
Yeah.
anywho, I think we should move on to the weekend's action, which was absolutely packed. Well, I'd say five really good games in one. That was a bit boring, but fine. But I'll get on to that one. But I think we'll kick it off with the top of the table clash. Celtic hosted Aberdeen at Parkhead. Big game coming at this. The only two sides in the league with 100% perfect record. They hadn't dropped any points. And Ethan, we got something that I don't think anyone was expecting.
No, I think um, it was a surprise. I thought Celtic would go into the game and beat Aberdeen. I think most of the people would have thought that when they seen Celtic were 2-0 up in what half an hour, and they thought maybe, oh, that's Aberdeen kind of sloped off, and they aren't going to be that team that challenge. But fair enough to Jimmy Fellini's players, they stuck in there. It wasn't easy for them, but they put on a great performance, and it was a really great match. A brilliant advertisement for the league. Unfortunately, it obviously was a 3 o'clock game, but what can you do? It was a really good game. Just a kind of, well, I don't even know how to explain it. It was just, it had everything. I think
Yeah,
it was just a really good game.
definitely. So just to go over some of the highlights, Arne Engels hits the bar early on, but then Celtic take the lead through Rio Hotati. Really good work from Kyogo to get the ball across to him, and it's a nice finish. Um, Kyogo doubles the lead. Um, as you said, half an hour in, and it's looking comfortable for Celtic. The defending for Celtic's second goal, I thought, was quite poor. It was a bit of a stramash, but he got it in the ball in the net, and there's never a bad goal. So Celtic double their lead. Aberdeen with a big chance in the first half though. Leighton Clarkson, Ethan, it looks like he just doesn't get enough on it.
Yeah, I don't know if he's caught in two minds because I think I can't remember what Aberdeen players up there with him, but he could have possibly squared it. I think he kind of sees him at the corner of his eye and he thinks about it. But Alex Bailly does quite well to get back in and block it once it's past Michael. But I thought he didn't have his best game, um, as a lot of Celtic players didn't. I'm sure you'll get on the Dyson Maeda, who I thought probably had one of his worst games in a Celtic shirt. But
Do you
I'll
want to
give him
just
the
chat about it? Do you want to just talk about him now since you've brought it up?
yeah. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, saying he's probably travelled to whereabouts, travelling to Asia and back, and maybe that's affected him. But yeah, I think he's got to put that game behind him. It was really poor, especially on the second goal.
Yeah,
Don't know what he's doing.
it
He just
wasn't
plays
a
a ball.
characteristic of him either because he loses that, and you see him throwing a wee tantrum. What you expect Dyson Maida to do is lose it, run after it, win it back, then run up the pitch and do something with it. Or, he didn't seem himself at all, did he?
No, no, not at all. I mean, it's unforgivable, really. Just plays it in the middle of the park straight to Jamie McGrath. It's like he almost looks like Jamie McGrath kind of goes, "Oh, the ball's at my feet. I've just been gifted the ball by Celtic while they were on the attack, and Aberdeen punished them.
Yeah,
And yeah, they get a bit fortunate with their deflection off Trusty, but it's really well worked.
aye. I think we'll just touch on the first goal. Uh, Subs from Jelly Tilleen at half time changed the game. Esther Sockler on. I think before we get to him, Jamie McGrath with one of the best passes I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think the more you watch it, the better it gets. It's just how like perfect he gets it. There's no right to be able to pick Sockler out with that pass.
On the spin,
Ridiculous.
on the volley.
Yeah, yeah. That's
absolutely
ridiculous.
mental. And he looks like a different animal this season.
Yeah, I think if you were to have a sort of PFA player of the season right now, I know it's very early in the season, but just making the point, I think you would be hard pushed to get anyone going and instead of Jamie McGrath. I think he's been brilliant, and he's been just everything that's kind of went through him in the Aberdeen attacks.
Yeah, definitely. So he plays that incredible pass, and Esther Sockler gets on the end of it, finishes it really nicely for 2-1. And you're thinking maybe at that point, I don't know what you're feeling as a Celtic fan, but maybe you're thinking at that point, oh, they've got to go back. Celtic might go up and score again. The win was probably still, you thought, in your hands. Um,
Yeah, definitely.
but that wasn't to be, like we said. You know, Graham Shinney gets that deflected goal off of Austin Trusty. Dyson Maida really poor. One thing I noticed from the highlights was I thought Celtic looked, especially in the second half, looked quite careless on the ball. A lot of like misplaced passes, which you don't see often, do you?
No, no, not certainly. I think compared the first half performance to the second half performance, I don't think Celtic were excellent in the first half, but they took their two chances well. They were clinical and they moved the ball about well, and they moved Aberdeen about well. Um, but the midfield, especially Arne Engels, he was pretty good in the first half. He was unlucky not to score. He had a few good chances. That one off the bar you mentioned, which is a half chance. He's the confidence probably shows that he's even trying to score that. But yeah, they were Engels especially was pretty poor in the second half. I thought Hatate had one of his better games this season in the first half. McGregor gave the ball away one of the times it started an Aberdeen attack, and yeah, Maeda obviously gave the ball away, and it was just very careless on the ball. Thought some of the subs kind of made an improvement, and I think Celtic got better as the game went on towards the end. James Forrest and Luke McCowan were probably standouts off the bench. But Celtic huffed and puffed, but Aberdeen held on. I think Aberdeen made it slightly difficult for themselves. A lot of time wasting and a lot of fouling. And I genuinely think if Aberdeen had went for it at the time of two each, they could have got a winner. And obviously they did get that goal with Duke,
Yeah,
which
they
is
took
which
they
is
took
ruled
the
out.
lead, but it was came off of Duke's arm in the end, didn't it? Was that directly from the ball in, or had someone already headed it? Or
Yeah, I think it was Rubizic. Is it the centre half? He
oh
headed
yeah,
it. It was a poor header from him. It wasn't even going on target, and it hits off Duke's hand. He doesn't know much about it, but I think he does know. He's kind of telling the players as they go back to the centre circle that it did hit his hand and they got the right decision. But for a second, for myself, and I think everyone, maybe barring Duke, I think they thought Aberdeen had pulled off a miracle to go
Mhm.
ahead. And
Yeah, all
yeah,
credit all credit goes to them and their Jimmy Tilleen. Aberdeen, they looked really like they defended well in that second half. And one thing I picked up on was after the changes, they just looked absolutely frightening in transition. You've got
yeah,
Duke, you've got McGrath pulling the strings, you've got Esther Sockler. Any team in the league wouldn't like to see them running in behind them at all, would they?
no, no, the depth in the squad as well. You mentioned the kind of subs that they're allowed to bring on.
Yeah. Well, you
I
bring off
thought,
you bring off Keskinen, who's been having a really good season. You bring on Duke, who he wasn't too great. He kind of went AWOL for a bit, but now he's back and he looks brilliant, doesn't he?
yeah, and yeah, just the kind of the counter attack. And I've got some stats here that I pulled out that I'll probably show. I mean, Aberdeen 16% possession in the second half is one that's been bandied about a lot, but I was looking a bit further into the Scottish Premiership stats. The expected goals to goals. Celtic have scored 24 goals from 21.1 expected goals. Aberdeen have scored 17 goals from under 10 expected goals. So it shows how like clinical they have been in their attacks and why they're doing so well. I think another stat I had was the amount of big chances they had. I think Hearts have more big chances than Aberdeen this season, and it kind of just shows how clinical and how well and how efficient Aberdeen have been. They were so well drilled in their system, and that's what got them the result they deserved ultimately.
Well, yeah, I said that in the opening game of the season. Actually, I got a bit of abuse for it on Twitter, but I said it was the St Johnstone game, and I thought, St John's. I said St Johnstone had been the better side. Aberdeen have been extremely clinical, and I guess that's sort of ringing true to this day.
Yeah, definitely. I'll get all the exact numbers of the big chances. Celtic 41 big chances, Rangers 25, Hearts 19, Aberdeen 18.
That's grim.
Yeah,
Rangers with 25.
yeah,
We'll get on to Rangers in a bit, but I've dropped my pen as well. But that is grim. Um, yeah. So on to the rest of this game. Meathoff made a few big saves. James Forrest had a big chance. Celtic score, and Alistair Johnson, one of the funniest like protests I think I've ever seen. Always he just backs into the goalkeeper, Meathoff, and it holds it back. I respect that; it's a real Sunday League move, but obviously with VAR, you can't you can't be doing that. Adam Idah heads it into the empty net because Alistair Johnson is I don't know, pulled off some Brazilian jiu-jitsu on Dimitar Mitov, but
yeah.
that is
If
yeah.
you, oh, sorry, I was just going to say, have you seen Bernardo Silva's kind of influence on the goalkeeper, interfering with the goalkeeper for John Stones' late Man City winner? That's how you do it. Standing in front of the goalkeeper. Alistair Johnson didn't quite mask his act as well, you could say.
No,
Um,
I don't think that goal should have been given either.
or the
Um,
Bernardo set the John Stones
yeah,
one.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
that,
don't
that
think it
one is
should have been given.
split
Well,
opinion.
this is a bit of a tangent, but Wolves have been absolutely like you know they've been robbed at the weekend. They've had a really hard going of it. I think they've had like the hardest run in the Prem.
Yeah, yeah, the
Yeah,
fixtures have been really difficult.
because every time I see them, their games are always close and they're not that bad. So, but anyway, back to Scotland. Celtic have a penalty shout, but it's not given. Walsh was actually spot on with the original. He gave the free kick on the pitch, and VAR had a look at it and went, "You're right, mate." Luke McCowan trying to get a penalty there, throwing himself into the box. Fair play because every player does it. They try. If you can try and get it, you can. David Tarmitov pulls off a brilliant save, and then Duke with an incredible block on the line. There was a check for a penalty there, wasn't given. Ultimately, the game finishes 2-2, and the league is poised.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's refreshing to see that another team's going toe to toe with. Well, we haven't seen Aberdeen against Rangers yet, but going toe to toe with Celtic at the top of the league, going toe to toe with Celtic in a match, and God knows how long it'll rest for Aberdeen, or how long it'll last. Sorry, I think it, there's no thing to suggest they're slowing down. I know I've read the data there, but as long as they can keep being as clinical as they have been, there's no reason why they can't keep winning games and going undefeated as they have been so far. It's been really
Yeah,
impressive.
I'd agree with that. However, I don't think that is sustainable to just keep being that clinical.
No, obviously
Um,
not.
so I think eventually they will maybe fall off the horse, but who knows how long that'll take. Um, and even well, judging by the way the other side that probably should be in contention for the title are performing, I have to say Aberdeen are the main challengers at the moment. So anyway, on to Dundee United taking on Hibs at Tannadice. some game this was. Another brilliant game this weekend in Scotland. I feel like the Scottish game, there's been loads of goals and loads of like drama recently. It's been really good. I've been enjoying watching sports scene and catching up on everything, Ethan.
Yeah, a lot of the weeks have been really filled with entertaining games. I'd say this one gets picked this weekend just based off the quality of the Celtic Aberdeen game, but I mean, it's a really good game. It's got everything. It's got Hibs in it.
Hibs
Dundee
Hibs it
United,
again.
yeah, Dundee United keeping up their great run of form. And yeah, it was a really good game. But Dundee United, maybe based off the balance of play, they should have won. But with possession Hibs were in, there's no way they should have away with nothing from that game.
Yeah. So Dundee United take the early lead through Sam Dalby. Good running from Glenn Middleton to get across and play the ball across. Good, good goal from them. Hibs
Yeah,
equalise through O'Hora. Great. I thought it was really like either poor defending or great movement from Miller. Because if you see him, he like shifts off to get the chance to head the ball back across for O'Hora to head it into the net. I don't know. I just that stood out to me. Just that moment
yeah,
from Miller.
yeah. Miller's a player that every time I watch him, he always impresses me. I don't know if you get the same opinion, but I just
Yeah,
think he's a really solid player.
I'd agree with that. He's good on the ball. He's good in the air. He's physical. He's really quick and he's big.
Yeah, yeah.
So
He does get outpaced by Middleton for the goal, but I think a lot of people would get outpaced by Glenn Middleton on his day.
yeah,
Obviously,
definitely.
Miller made I think his debut for Australia, and he scored as well. So,
Hmm.
um, but yeah,
Eh,
it was really good movement, and it was a good header to the defenders combining, and
aye,
Hibs probably got a goal they deserved at the time.
yeah. And then Dundee United go 2-1 up. Glenn Middleton and Sam Dalby linking up again, but unfortunately it was ruled out for offside. But that was, I think that was a theme of the game, especially like even when Middleton came off, and or did he might have been moved, but when Trapanovsky was coming down that left hand side when he came on, Hibs right hand side, it just looked like a problem the entire game for Hibs.
Yeah, and it definitely. I think Glenn Middleton you mentioned. I think he's not really got going this season yet. He had a good season last season for Dundee United, but I think if they can get him playing, then they can do even better than they have been doing. Because he was really good. And then, as you said, Trapanovsky comes on off the bench and he just continues it. It's really good playing. It's unlucky.
Yeah. And Kwon has a really good effort from distance. When's he going to score one of these? I swear he has one every week. You know,
Yeah, I know.
he
I
seems like
know.
it has some strike on him, and
I know.
it's never in the net. It's a good save from Walton. And then, a bit of a blast for the past. Dwight Gale comes up, scores the second for his and gives them the lead. And I don't know about you, Ethan, but that brings back memories of watching Match of the Day, and when Palace were, pretty good. You've got your Zaha, Balassi, Dwight Gale. That just brought back some memories for me.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's the first goal we've seen him score in Scotland. And yeah, a 35-year-old Dwight Gale makes me feel very old. Um, but yeah,
I know.
it was a absolutely. I've got to say, it was an absolutely a brilliant cross from Obita. Just the bend and the curl he gets on, it's
Yeah,
absolutely perfect. And
brilliant cross. Um, Joe Newell gets a second yellow card and is sent off. Uh, I didn't see what the first booking was for, but this, I can see why he wins the ball, but he follows through pretty hard, and I don't think he can have any complaints.
yeah, I think definitely. I think the second yellow is definitely yellow, and the first yellow as well. The first yellow, he just takes out Glenn Middleton before he's trying to get away from him, and it's a clear yellow card. He can have no complaints on his first game back after his month out an injury.
Hmm. Um, Then the victim of the challenge, Lucas Stevenson, comes up to make it 2-2, and I think it was the 94th, 95th minute.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe just before. I don't
And
know. It was something like that anyway.
you know, it was funny, a commentator going, Lucas Stevenson rescues a point for Dundee United. Little did they know. Um, you know, I think for that goal, it was poor defending as well, and poor defending for the winning goal from right here we go. Ubo, I'm not getting this. Think you can give it a go.
What is it? Is it Meshak Ubochima? Is it?
Ubo Chima, I think, yeah, we'll go with that. Bursic, I thought he was poor for the Dundee United's equaliser, and he was poor for this one as well. Really nice finish from we'll call him Ubo. Uh, like really controlled, like dink to just put it in and stay calm as well, because a lot of players would just lash at that empty net, but you know he lifts it over everyone and gives Dundee United the win in the 99th minute, and a wee pitch invasion as well.
Yeah, so that's just exactly what the kind of things you want to see. Unless you're a Hibs fan, I think Bartik, he's never kind of he's not been great. I think he made that he was the one who made that brilliant save against Rangers. But apart from that, he's not covered himself in glory a lot. And when he's meant to be commanding his box, I think he knocks out his own player near enough instead of the ball. And yeah, as you said, it's a really composed finish by Uwachima, and they get the fortunate side of the under that bar like Dundee United and like Hibs sorry got in the first half. And I think yeah, the goal before that as well is quite poor from Hibs as well. I think Stevenson, the wing back, I don't really know why he's in the area, but he is, and I think that's his fourth goal and assist this season in 8 games. So I think he's been a really good pickup from Dundee United. He's been pretty impressive
Yeah,
so far.
on loan from Liverpool, so uh, yeah, clear what Ethan might said a couple of weeks ago. He's not on loan from Barrow, guys. He's on loan from Liverpool.
Yeah, I thought he was on loan from Barrow. My
I
mistake.
think you made the same mistake with Kieran Bowie as well.
No,
You
I
got
said no. I got Kieran Bowie's team right. I just said he was on loan when he's not.
no, you didn't get his team right. They signed him from Northampton.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, you're right.
So you know. Anyway, Hearts versus St Mirren. Neil Critchley's first game in charge, and he couldn't have asked for a better start. You know that opening goal, the link up between Shanklin and Kenneth Vargas was beautiful, wasn't it?
Yeah, the two players that look like they're on sky high for confidence. When I'm guessing both of them really weren't going into this game. Um, it's brilliant play from both of them, and you can see when Kenneth Vargas scores, the kind of relief and happiness he gets for scoring his first goal of the season, because he's obviously came under quite a lot of criticism from Hearts fans this season. That miss at Pataudry comes to mind when he
Yeah,
chipped it over the bar.
don't know
But
what he
yeah,
was. I still don't know what he was doing there.
but yeah, it was a good finish. But I do think it was a bit poor goalkeeping from Larry Balcombe, who is another goalkeeper who hasn't really satisfied his support from speaking to St Mirren fans.
Yeah, definitely. There wasn't really much else to discuss in the first half. However, in the second half, Dan Oyegoke with which I think will be goal of the week. What a finish!
Yeah, I think it's hard to beat that. I mean, no, everyone's kind of saying, "Well, you just have a pot from there," and he does, and it's an absolutely brilliant goal. And you can't fault Balcom with that one and off the
No,
post. He doesn't get anywhere near it.
yeah, brilliant. Just chops in and he kind of looks up and he's like, "Oh, no one pressing me. No, okay, I'll have a wee go," and just bends it in. Beautiful
Yeah,
finish from him. I believe that's his weak foot as well, because he's a right back. So
yeah,
brilliant.
probably.
Uh, there really wasn't a lot else. I feel like the highlights of this game were the goals. Mirren were poor, you know. they seemed really rash in possession, like giving away the ball really easily, never taking control quite, and that's what gave Hearts the opportunities. I didn't think this is going to sound bad, but I didn't think Hearts were like miles better, but St Mirren were just really, really poor. Um, Terrible defending, but young James Wilson makes it three, and that'll be a great day for him. But St Mirren again shooting themselves in the foot. I think just with the level of performance, not necessarily shooting themselves in the foot in a mistake, but it just looked like not a lot of effort was put into that at all.
Yeah, I know. Definitely, I definitely agree with you. The defending, especially for that James Wilson goal, obviously it'll be brilliant for Wilson. I think that's his SPFL debut,
Yeah,
17.
he's the youngest player to score for Hearts since Aaron Hickey.
Well,
So
that's quite a start. Um, yeah, it was really poor. I think they had kind of ample opportunities to clear it, and they didn't. And then they're obviously going to get punished. As you said, I don't think there was much in the game. It wasn't as if Hearts blew them away. I know the scoreline looks like that. Hearts were good, and it's definitely positive signs. And I think we have been seeing positive signs even before they got Neil Critchley in. And that's our first domestic win, so they'll be hoping to build on that in Europe during the week.
yeah, um, Stephen Robinson wasn't happy at all. I think you've seen it during the game. There's a cut to him and he was like kicking and shouting, maybe a wee sweary word in there from him. And then in his post match, he was really scathing of the players. Like, he was, he took some blame for himself, obviously, because he's the manager, but he was like, that's not the standards we hold around here, and I don't think it should be. And then Blair Spittle makes it four, which was a really good finish, but you can't give Blair Spittle the chance to shoot from there and give him the time.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've seen it last season. We've seen it against Aberdeen in the 3-2 loss at Pittodrie. Yeah, Blair Spittle outside the box from that kind of distance. You're not wanting them to. Maybe you let Oyegoke, if that's how you say his name, have a pop from there.
A
Um,
Spittle-esque finish though from
yeah,
Oyegoke.
yeah,
Maybe
maybe
he's been
that.
teaching him and training.
Possibly, but I think everyone should know that Blair Spittle can't be allowed to kind of have that kind of free roam in there. Yeah, and as you said about Stephen Robinson, he's not happy, and neither he would be. So 1 win in 10 for St Mirren, so really, really not a good run. But it looks like he's going to get a new contract because he's got a lot of credit in the bank with the St Mirren fans.
Yeah, and I think despite the poor run of form from the St Mirren fans that we know, I think they're quite pleased with that.
Yeah, definitely. I think last season was a memorable season for them, and I think they believe that he's the man to take them forward even this season.
On to St Johnstone versus Ross County. Another game full of drama. Elijah Campbell gets a booking early on. One of the other ones where they show you in the sports scene highlights, a guy getting a booking, and you're like, oh, well then. so, uh, but St Johnstone take the lead through Kimpioka, ball across the face. One thing I noticed was, especially in this game, St Johnstone were causing Ross County a lot of problems with balls low and hard across the face of the goal, and that seemed to be their undoing. Campbell is then sent off for a second booking. He's getting no complaints, a horrible, just silly challenge from him. And then shortly after that, St Johnstone take the lead. Kimpioka again. Nearly misses the way kind of puts it. I think it hits the bar, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Well, Ross Laidlaw nearly saved it. Um,
Yeah, mental. St Johnstone go 3-0 up through Nicky Clark, another ball across the face. VAR ruled it out for offside. And then Ross County get their second red. Telfer with a straight red card, a high challenge. I don't think he can have any complaints. You, Ethan?
no, no, it's a terrible tackle. 3 minutes after coming off the bench. I mean, there's making your mark in a game, and then there's making your mark in a game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Then late into injury time, St Johnstone make it 3-0 through Mackenzie Kirk, and that's their first home win in over a year, which, yeah, mad, isn't it? So I
yeah,
saw your face there.
that is a crazy start. Yeah, it's a brilliant win for them under their new manager, Simo Valakari. Their first win in 8 since that 3-0 win over Kilmarnock, which gave us false hope into thinking they would actually be pretty decent. Maybe they will be pretty decent under their new boss.
I think they've got the players for it, but they just need to watch their temperament. Although that seems to be a theme in the SPFL this season, guys are
Yeah,
getting sent off every weekend.
yeah. I know a lot of the teams are very ill-disciplined, you could say. I mean, 2 red cards in the
And
same game.
I don't think it's a VAR issue either. Like all the ones we've seen, have kind of
Yeah,
been like, yeah, that's a red card
I
or
mean, a
two
lot. Yeah,
yellows.
yeah, a lot of them have been. Yeah, I mean, Ross County just terrible all over. They were on a decent run as well, and it was a decent run from Doncaster. They had that impressive, you would say, impressive performance against Celtic despite losing. It went a wee run without a loss, but it's a really, really bad way to end it. 2 red cards. The first 2 goals are really avoidable. I think they're almost carbon copies. Balls into Kempioka, who's not really marked, and in
Yeah,
between the goalposts.
he's not the
Good
most
finish.
natural finisher either. He's kind of,
No,
but
no, you're definitely right. He's not, but he's got 9 goals this season, so he is their marksman. But yeah, they're really poor, and St Johnstone just capitalised on Ross County being terrible, pretty much.
yeah, I think it was one of the. I think was it the first or second. Ryan Leake goes down looking for a foul. And I thought originally when I was watching it, I was like, oh, but then when I watched it, Sidibe just outstrengths him, doesn't he?
Yeah, yeah. Sidibe, he is quite. He's very physical. He's and I think him and Kempioka do make a really good strike force when they both get their head in the game and they're not trying to kick people and do whatever else.
Or uppercut them in
Yeah,
their nuts. Excuse
yeah,
my French, guys. But
yeah.
yeah,
Both of them got red cards this season, but both of them seem to have the potential to score goals.
yeah. So it's looking up for St Johnstone. A really poor defeat for Ross County. I'm sure Don Cowie will have something to say to the players who got sent off. Um, so yeah, on to Marvel versus Dundee. There's not really a lot to talk about in this game, is there? I say it's one of the worst ones of the weekend.
Yeah, there's always got to be one game that's not great, and I think this one's it. I think Dundee probably, based off play, they just edged it and probably just deserve a
Yeah,
win, but a massive win for them, and you can't underestimate that. They went the first one in 7 games since they beat Airdrie. They thrashed Airdrie in the cup, and that seems a long, long time ago. Um, so yeah, it's a massive win for Tony Docherty, and Lyle Cameron's really taken that kind of talismanic mantle in the place of Luke McCowan. That's his
I didn't
12th goal.
realise Lyle Cameron's only 21 as well.
Yeah, in his 12th goal contribution in 14 games this season. He's definitely going under the radar. And I think he's been by far Dundee's best player this season.
Yeah, definitely. Positive signs for Tony Docherty. The guys, Motherwell will need to look to bounce back because they by no means have been bad. They've been excellent so far this season. So, I think they just need to take this one on the chin and move on.
Yeah,
But I don't think it's panic stations for them, and I don't think, and I think Dundee, they have a good opportunity to take this win, get a feel good factor going, and move forward.
yeah. I mean, for Motherwell, as you said, they've been brilliant this season. I think that's only their second loss in 8 games. And I think the other one was against Rangers. So, yeah, it just shows how good they've been this season under Stuart Kettlewell. Next game won't get any easier at home to Celtic, but I'm sure they'll fancy their chances of doing something like Aberdeen done. But for both teams, I think they're sitting 5th and 6th. They're both they're in not bad places at the moment. And I think if they can keep a good run of form, they can definitely stay in those top six places.
hmm Um, yeah. Now on to the final game of the weekend. Kilmarnock took on Rangers at Rugby Park. Um, I'm just gonna go on a wee rant here. Dismal, absolutely dismal. No inspiration, no passion, no aggression. I didn't see the game myself live, but I've kind of watched the highlights and I've looked into everything, and it's just I sounded like that Chelsea guy there. There is no passion, no aggression, but like honestly, it's just flat, and our inability to break down a low block, is frustrating. All credit to Kilmarnock though; they defended well and they got their goal in the end. I'll come on to the goal in a minute, but it's just there's nothing there, and it's concerning to be honest. Like if we were, it's difficult because I still don't want to lose, but I'd rather see a bit of fight. It just looks flat, and they bottled a huge opportunity to close the gap on the two teams at the top after they drew in their game. And Rangers, they've got Aberdeen a week on Wednesday, week tomorrow. I
Yeah,
I don't I just don't see anything. I don't really see a way to victory. But before that, they've got two tough games. They've got Steaua Bucharest and then St Mirren. So if they can bounce back and get good wins in them, hopefully, they can do something against Aberdeen. But right now, I can't see it. Now onto the goal, long ball. Hopeful long ball. Marley Watkins out muscle. Is it Marley Watkins?
yeah,
Marley Watkins out muscles John Souttar, who we talked about so highly earlier for his excellent performance against Portugal. Really poor here, and Jack Butland's in no man's land. I feel like I've got a bit of a unique take on this. Although Souttar shouldn't be out muscled, I feel like Butland is really like at fault for this goal. I don't know what he's doing. He kind of comes out, and what I think he should do is come out, take his man Marley Watkins and the ball. Instead, he kind of half comes out, waits, drops down, Watkins finishes, and that's the win for Kilmarnock. A really good win for them, but Rangers, it's really disappointing.
yeah, definitely. I think, I mean, all the credit goes to Kilmarnock. They got that break of the ball last week where they scored those three late goals. Not last week, sorry, in the last game against Dundee. And you kind of thought that might kind of spark them into life, and it certainly has done. They were brilliant against Rangers, and they deserved to win. I think
hmm
they set up well. Classic kind of Derek McInnes set up his team, and they defended very well. And Rangers didn't really have much in the game. Obviously, Robbie McCrory had to make a few saves, but it was nothing major. And Rangers, as you said, struggling to break down that low block that Kilmarnock put on, and then they snatch at the chance they get at the end. They had chances before that, but it's brilliant from Ali Watkins, and
Yeah,
uh, David Watson just kind of plays that hopeful ball over the top of his head after just coming on. I think it was his first touch, Laurie told me. And Molly Watkins just bodies John Souttar, which I don't understand really how he can go from playing so well on that Scotland team against Portugal to really kind of just being quite poor for a defender. And you say with Jack Butland, he doesn't kind of command his box. It's just really poor all round from Rangers, and it's concerning. I
yeah,
think,
six points behind now, Aberdeen and Celtic, and it could be
yeah,
nine by Wednesday next week.
yeah,
You know,
definitely. I think you've got to say Aberdeen are favourites for that one.
definitely.
I think Rangers since the Celtic game they were getting through games, they were winning games. Domestically, the performances were okay, nothing special, but they were winning the games, keeping a good amount of clean sheets as well. But I don't know if it's maybe just the hangover from the international break, or it's just kind of the pressure, maybe of having to win that game to kind of catch up on Aberdeen and Celtic. Um, and yes, it seems like it's a long way back for Rangers already. But
Although
there's
we were
still a
in a
lot.
similar situation last season, so
Yeah, I was just going to say it's a long season. I mean, you thought Celtic had won the league. I think maybe even earlier in the season last season. People had thought Celtic had won the league, and then it took numerous twists and turns before we finally got to Celtic being the winners. But yeah, I think it's concerning for Rangers, but all they can do is look to the next game and try and wipe that from memory. 6 points is not unachievable. It's not ideal, but yeah, they've just got to start getting a concrete system in place and a momentum in the league.
definitely. Um, it's tough for me to talk about because obviously it's just demoralising seeing how bad this side are right now. Um, so far behind Celtic, and yeah, but a lot of pressure's coming on the manager. But I don't think he's only been in the job a year, and the mess that he's come into. People saying there's been no progression. I don't think that's true. We won the League Cup. We've done fairly well in Europe. Um, the domestic form hasn't been great, but if you look at the squad he's working with, there's not a lot of depth, and I just feel like he should be given time. A lot of people won't like to hear that, but if we keep chopping and changing managers, it'll never improve. So give him time and real time, not give him to the end of the season. Give him this season, the next, and then see what happens from there. But and a lot of people, and I don't like the idea of that either. But I think that's just the scenario we're in as a club right now. We're not Rangers aren't what they were. You know, Gerrard got given 3 years, and then we saw one of the best seasons ever. So give him time,
Yeah,
and that's what I think right now. Because I don't think as a club Rangers are in a position to be challenging. Although that's always the expectation. I just right now it's not the case.
yeah. I think I mentioned it after the Celtic Rangers game. I think Rangers need a restart from top to bottom, not including the manager. I think they need to keep faith in Clement. They've obviously gave him that contract, and they've got to stick by their man. They've got to back him as much as they can. It's obvious looking at the start of the season, the squad is not good enough to go toe to toe with Celtic, or shouldn't be good enough to go toe to toe with Celtic. Um, and all they can do is develop the players and in the hope that in a few years, in a year's time, in a couple of years' time, that Rangers are back there with Celtic, because
Yeah,
at the moment there's a big gap and that needs to be closed, and it's not going to be closed by knocking the blocks over and starting again each time that
aye.
a few
'Cause
results don't
the,
go
the the
Rangers' way.
build the building blocks are in place. In my opinion, you've got young guys in there who look positive. Mandy looks good on his day. Although he wasn't great at the weekend there. But you've got Jefty, who looks really promising. You've got Casanviro, although he's on loan. I've got a suspicion maybe Rangers would go in for him because he looks really, really good. Oscar Cortez, if he can stay fit, which is another issue, Rangers, but I won't dive into that because that will take us on a whole other path. But, the building blocks are there. Barami's a good player. He's not young, but he's 25, so he's not old either. He can be there for a good few years. So he's slowly building his squad, but with the resources at his disposal and the mess that he's walked into, you can't expect him to turn it around in a year or just over a year and have us battering teams all the time. It'll take time. You look at like Mikel Arteta, what he's done with Arsenal, the time he's been given. So, and I know that that's not the way up here. We don't give managers time, because there's instant success is the demand, but that's just not the position Rangers are in. So give them time and see what happens.
Yeah, I think maybe a final point. I think that I just want to make. I think a lot of people base their expectations on Rangers managers off what Ange Postecoglou done, and I think it's completely that this scenario is completely different to that. Um, Ange Postecoglou came into a Celtic squad which was like Rangers. It looked second best. It looked like it wasn't good enough, but the Celtic had the money sitting on multiple Champions League campaigns to go and get those players, those young players that maybe not are the finished articles, but they're the players that can develop, and that's what Rangers need to do, and that's what Rangers have done, and they've not bought players who are going to go toe to toe with Celtic now, but they might go toe to toe with Celtic in a year's time, in a couple of years' time, and that's the only thing they can do. You can't just make progress out of nowhere. You need to build it up, and that's what Rangers will need to do.
Yeah. And the fans, like I've said, they won't like to hear that, but that's just the way it is right now. But anyway, that's it for today's episode. I feel like I've ended it on quite a depressing note, but that's just the way it goes. Ethan isn't as depressed as me. Uh, Laurie couldn't be with us today to give his thoughts on the game, but rest assured he's buzzing. So thank you to you all for listening, watching. Go check out our Twitter at the Dugout 2024. We post all sorts of good stuff on there about the games and rumours, news. Um, I say this every week, but we are trying to keep up to date with it. So bear with us on that front. But yeah, go check it out.
I
What are
was
you
going to
saying,
say a
Ethan?
last thing there. Sorry. We've just seen Inverness have been deducted 15
Oh
points.
yes, of
Uh,
course.
so yeah, that's a talking point for maybe another episode, but
Yeah,
it's really not looking good
it's
for
not
them.
looking good for Inverness at all. Real shame. I know that sounded really sarcastic, but it is a real shame. But anyway, yeah, that's it. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Ethan. Goodbye.